Let's talk about the best games that stream on Twitch in November 2020. Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Benjamin Green, but you can just call me Ben. I'm really into streaming strategy and data and all the nerdy stuff around Twitch. So today we're going to talk through the top games to be streaming on Twitch during November. I've done a couple of these in the past and they've been pretty popular. So I'm really excited to bring this back for November. The goal is to keep doing this monthly at this point. But yeah, we're going to get through into the games for what's trending this month and help you guys pick out some popular games, some niche games, whether you are a new streamer or you've been streaming for a while. And just a little bit about me before we get started. I've been in the streaming space for about 5 years. I'm currently the community manager for Lenovo Legion for their North American community. I also formerly hosted the StreamKey podcast, and I'm the new co-host of the Gaming Careers podcast alongside Pete. So I've been in the space for a while, and I love the strategy side and kind of nerdy side of Twitch. So let's get into this and talk through what games you guys should be looking at this month. All right, so here is the overall tier list for the month of November. Now you'll see a lot of different games on here. And it might be a little bit overwhelming at first, but I promise you it's not. Let me break down what each sort of tier means, as well as some of the indicators you see on the right side there. So this tier list, the games are ranked based on average viewer ratio, and shout out to Solynome for hooking us up with the data here, which is a measure of basically how much viewers are moving down into more channels in a directory, and not all just concentrated in the top couple channels, the big streamers in that directory. It's also a measure of how high the game is on the directory and how likely you get seen. If you're a data nerd and you want more details, please check out the description and towards the end of the video for some more details there. But just to kick this off, I want to keep it pretty simple. Just know it's based on how much viewers are moving around in the directory. And again, on the right side, you'll see a couple of cool indicators. So we have the initial tiers on the left, which are just the highest viewer ratios, but I have a couple indicators of games that are pick of the month. I'm going to do that every month now and just pick my personal favorite. So you can see it's at the very end this month. New streamer picks. These are good games if you are new to streaming and don't really have viewers watching you yet. These are some good options for you to jump into, as well as short-term picks, which are kind of seasonal picks. These are more like themed around a certain event or a new release that might be falling off soon, but right now is still a pretty good game to play. So I'll break that down a bit more as we go through each game here. Okay, so let's talk about each game and work our way down here. So the first one is Dark Pictures Little Hope. I had to look up this game. This one is trending right now because of Halloween. A lot of these games you'll see in here are kind of horror themed because we just came out of October. So they are still trending, and this is the biggest one right now, which means this, of all the horror games out there this month, this is sort of the best one to play if you want to stand out. I know you've probably played Phasmophobia, super popular game, but because it's so popular, it's hard to break out. Whereas this game, Dark Pictures, you're going to be more likely to rank up in that directory in the top couple rows if you want to try that game out. Now, be careful. I do think this game will fall off in the next month or so, even it's probably already started to by the time that you see this video. So you don't want to play it too long, but if you're a variety caster or just want to do something fun around the Halloween time, good game to play right now. Coming up in second place, we have the one and only Hearthstone. If you've seen any of these videos before, you'll know Hearthstone is always at the top, and that's for a couple of reasons. First of all, card games are really good, card games and auto battlers, because there's downtime. So anytime that you are making your decisions or watching the other opponent play, that's downtime for you to interact with the chat on the other side and talk about your thought process or anything during that downtime. So very interactive. And Hearthstone in particular is just that nice balance of very popular, where everyone knows Hearthstone. It's been around for a while, but at the same time, there's not a ton of people playing it. So a pretty good spot to jump in, even all these years later. It is an older game, so you'll need to know what you're doing a little bit and have a collection ideally to kind of show off to people, but still, it's just so easy to engage with people that if you want to try a card game, Hearthstone is always the best one to go for. Just for a little perspective here, also to talk about this, if you have about 15 viewers when I checked, you'll be in about the top 5 rows of this directory. And the ceiling goes all the way up to about 2,000, probably way over that depending on certain events. That's something that'll be important as we talk about this, is you want a game that has a very high ceiling, meaning potential all viewership in your channel, but also a decent floor so that you can have, a smaller number of viewers and still get seen. So the games at the top of this list tend to have the best balance, where they have a lot of potential for you to get a ton of viewers in there, but then it's not also so hard to get those viewers to stand out. And you'll see we get to the end of the list, that's where those games are. Third on the list, we have Wild Rift, League of Legends Wild Rift. One of the themes for this month, which I'm pretty excited about actually, is mobile games. And that's no surprise if you guys have been in the games world, mobile games are really taking off, especially overseas. This game is brand new in terms of actually hitting the full release, which is why it's up here. It's also a great new streamer pick, which I'll talk about. The reason why this game is so good right now is because it is brand new and it's hard to stream. Since it's a mobile game, you can stream from your phone, but ideally if you want a good setup, it's going to be something going through your PC where it's more produced. So if you have a setup where you can do that and stream your own gameplay through a PC, then that's going to put you above all the competition there. But because it's also new, you don't really have established streamers in this directory who you have to fight for and kind of be the person. And it's actually an opportunity for you to become that person if you want to be the Wild Rift streamer. There isn't one yet. So there's a wild kind of green pasture moment right there. And again, it's a good new streamer pick because it's pretty easy to get seen in this directory, even with just a couple viewers, because whenever I've seen, there's not a ton of people watching, but there's still a lot of interest in this event, and you can bet that this game is not going anywhere anytime soon because it's basically League on mobile. So it's a very good long-term play, and now is kind of the time if you wanted to try to play this game. Now is a great time to get into it. Lastly, in the S tier, we have chess, which I didn't used to include on this list, but it really has taken off lately. No surprise, chess has been really popular thanks to a couple streamers giving it a lot of notoriety, XQC and Hikaru being the biggest ones. So chess is always fun to play. I think this is not one of those games probably where you really want to have some experience and not just go in blind, although some people like to see that probably. If you're an existing streamer and never tried chess before, that could be fun to see. I do think you're going to be, it's a little tough to start with this game as your first game unless you know what you're doing. But if it's something you want to try, again, if you're a variety caster, it might be a good way to work that into your rotation and try it out for your community. Moving down into the A tier, we have a couple more games, which don't write these off because they're the lower tier. They're still really good. First one is In Silence, which is another Halloween game, horror game. So it's going to be a bit more trendy. I think this will probably fall off in the next month or so. But if you want to try a horror game, this is another great one to look into. Right now, I was looking and it's about, if you have about 10 viewers actually, 12 viewers, you can break into those first two rows, which is great if you want to get found. The problem is that the ceiling is kind of low relative to other games. It's about 130, 140 for the top for what I was seeing. So while this will be good to get your initial viewers, if you're kind of above that range or you want to set yourself up for more long term, this probably is not a game you want to play for a long time. But it's a good way to kind of get your initial viewers in if you're trying something new right now. Okay, second up we have Watch Dogs Legion, which is a new release. This is a single player game that's on many platforms, so it's pretty easy to stream for most people. It's also, story games tend to be a little bit less nice to stream because some people avoid story games because they don't want to get spoiled. It's also the type of thing that once you beat it, you don't really probably want to go through it, the same way a multiplayer game. But if you're looking for single player games to play, if you're a variety caster and you need some good story games, this is a good one this month. I think for the next 2 months, it'll be pretty good. You'll need about 35 viewers to break into like the top 5 rows. So it's a little more challenging than some of the other ones on this list, but it's got a higher ceiling than In Silence, for example, or Little Hope. So it's kind of in that middle ground where if you have a decent audience already, this might be a good pick for you. Okay, in the third spot on the A tier, we have Dofus. I think I said that right, which is a French game, and it's really dominated by French streamers. There's a couple spots on this tier list that I included games which are maybe not so popular in the US or to English-speaking streamers, but are popular just on Twitch as a whole. I think there's still a good opportunity because you could be that first streamer to kind of break out in this category if you are an English speaker. There's a couple others I'll talk about. But yeah, Dofus is an opportunity for you if you want to try something different. And maybe if you're a variety caster and you want to try different types of games, or you want to be the Dofus streamer that's English, that's an option. So check that game out and see what you think. Okay, fourth position in the A tier is Spelunky 2, which actually I really think is a new streamer pick as I'm looking at this. This is a game that tends to be dominated by a couple top streamers that have most of the viewers, but it's still a really good game because looking at it, if you have about even like 10 viewers, you're in the first top 2 rows, which is really good. But it goes all the way up to 2,000 plus people watching the top channels. And there's a good breakdown too. It's not like the 1 or 2 top channels have all the viewers and everyone else has 4. It does kind of fall down linearly, so you can work your way up to those channels, it looks like. Check this game out if you're into this kind of game. Again, if you're variety or maybe you're into more of like the platforming side, good option for you to check out this month. I think this will probably be less short term, so don't worry that it's going to fall off so hard. It's not obviously going to be as long as some of the other games on here, League, Hearthstone, CSGO probably, but it's still a kind of medium-term game that you can play for a little while and build a solid community around this one. Finally, in A tier, we have Noita, which is another great pick for new streamers. This one's really interesting because it's more, again, I would say new over the medium or even established streamers, because the top end of this directory is maybe like 300 to 100 viewers. But it's really easy to get into the top row, even if you have, I mean, looking at this over the couple weeks, like even like 7 to 10 viewers can put you in those top 2 rows, which is amazing. If you're brand new, and even if you're just starting out, you know, you scroll down a couple rows, 4 viewers put you in the top 5 rows, which is pretty crazy. So definitely check this out if you're looking to bring in a couple new people to your community, if you're just starting out. Also, if you want to kind of make this your main game, I think you probably could. If you want to build your community around it, I don't think there's a lot of established streamers. I don't think it'll last as long, again, as some other games in this list, but if you want to try it out, it'd be worth a shot. And it's a very unique kind of game, so I definitely recommend this one to you guys if you're starting out or just want to build into that kind of mid-range with your channel. Okay, moving into the B tier, we have Age of Empires 2, which this one's interesting because I've never seen it on the list before, but it's a bit of an older game. It looks like it's kind of just getting a resurgence right now, although there are other couple games like that on here. This one is interesting because, again, it's got a couple streamers at the top that take a lot of the directory, but it's still a relatively linear directory where you can kind of move up over time, and it fluctuates. But I saw if you have about maybe like 20 viewers all the way to 70 given on the day, you can be in the top couple rows in this directory, probably top 2 rows if you're looking on desktop. So good way to get found. I don't think I would recommend this for brand new streamers, but if you're kind of in that mid-range, maybe you've got like a 30 to 40 range audience, this could be a really good directory to kind of bring you up. Again, it's an older game, which is a little tricky because you generally have to be pretty good at those games and have some nostalgia and be able to talk to people who've been there for a while. But if that's your thing, if you love this game, then definitely check it out and try it out this month. Speaking of older games, moving on to the next spot in the tier list, we have StarCraft II, which again has seen a pretty big update. I think it's maybe due because of the end of support for this from Blizzard is my guess. And so there's a lot of nostalgia coming out, although StarCraft II has been on my previous tier lists too. I think there's just not really a game like it, and there was such a big pro scene for it back in the day that it's still popular. You can make this directory work. I think this one's one of the hardest on the list to make work, but the ceiling is still pretty high. If you are like an ex-pro or something, or you've done extra content on YouTube, if you just know your stuff, this is a great game for educational content. I do think you shouldn't start out with this game if you've never played it before. Don't go in blind and expect to get viewers on your channel. But if you've played it before in the past, if you have some niche you can fill, some educational content, maybe you're just really exciting and entertaining for this game, this is one where viewers are moving around, so they will find you. I think there's probably a shortage in this directory too of not a lot of StarCraft II streamers, so that can help you stand out against everyone else out there. The other thing I'll say really quickly, just to confirm, the viewership is actually going up in this directory somehow, and the streamers are going down. Basically, there's fewer and fewer streamers each day, but there's more and more people watching it each day, which means they need more streamers to watch. So that could be you. It's also a good directory if you have about 20 viewers in the top 2 rows here. And when I checked on this, there was a lot of people who were not putting a lot of effort into their streams, who were just kind of sitting there doing nothing. So if you just put a little effort out there to keep talking, keep interacting with people, I think you can really stand out pretty quickly in this directory and rank up pretty quickly here. Next up in the B tier, we have Garena Free Fire, which has been coming up a little while now. This one is another mobile game, so talking of monthly themes, mobile and horror, kind of the 2 main themes this month. This one has been growing for a while, and again, since it is on mobile, I think it'll keep growing for a while, and there's a huge market for it because anyone who has a phone can play. So you can try breaking into it. This is another one that's really dominated by overseas, non-English speaking streamers. So you can try it if you want to. If you are an English speaker, maybe, again, this is probably one where there's not a established English speaking streamer yet, or not many. So you could break out here if you wanted to. And mobile games are just, like I said, always good to stream because they're so accessible, but many people can't stream them very easily just off their phone. The quality is often not the best. So if you have a setup that can support that, you can really stand out here. So check it out if you're into mobile games and you want to try that kind of thing out. Okay, so next up in B tier, we have Amnesia Rebirth, which is another Spooktober game, another horror game. This one is, I think, our 3rd on the list, and it's our last Halloween-focused game. If you want to jump into it over the next month or so, you probably still can. There's still a little bit of Halloween spirit going on. But I do think this will fall off in the next month or 2 a little bit. It's more accessible than some of the other games because, for new streamers, I should say, because for about 10 viewers or so, you'll show up in the top 2 rows, which is really good if you want to try this thing out. I would probably use it as like a special event content, or if you're working through a couple other different games, because a month from now, this game is not going to be watched very much. But again, it can work if you want to feature it as rotation or just as like a special game night for right now. Not a bad idea for you. Moving on, we have Eternal Return. This one's interesting. I kind of had to look it up. It is a MOBA BR game, anime style. Very, very interesting style game. It is I think a Korean game. It's dominated by Korean streamers. So it might be a game where if you're into this kind of thing and you want to check it out, it's not bad. It got a lot of publicity lately because I believe there were some ads going around. So like Soda Poppin', XQC, Dyrus were all playing this. So there's actually a pretty good viewership interest in this game for a lot of people watching it, but not many people streaming it, especially English speakers. So if you want to try this game out, it's probably good for the next month or two to check it out. It looks pretty interesting when I saw it. So if this is your kind of jam, then go for it. It could be something interesting to bring people that they haven't really seen before. And a quick note on this one in particular, this was interesting because I found a couple streamers with about 100 followers in this directory who had 20 viewers watching them. So even if you're pretty new to streaming, you can build up a pretty good size. If you have only 100 followers, but you have 20 people watching you, that's a really good ratio, and you might be able to replicate that in that too. Okay, next up in the B tier, we have FIFA 21, which is the only sports game that makes this list. For whatever reason, FIFA is the only sports series that ever makes this list. Probably because there's just so many people watching this, and it does kind of get dominated by the top couple streamers, but I think there's just so many people watching this game that it's still worth standing out a little bit, and viewers are moving around to look for more streamers here. So if you're into FIFA, if you're into sports games, I would try it out. I would not go blind into this. Like, don't start with this game if you're brand new to streaming and expect people to find you very easily. I would do some YouTube content, Instagram, maybe collab with other streamers, like play against them in some matches. There's some different options there, but yeah, this one is a little tough, but again, only sports game. So if you want to play sports games, this is a good way to choose one that's going to help you grow on your channel a little bit. And last up in the B tier, we have Super Mario Bros. 35, which is really interesting. It is a Mario Bros. Royale. Everything's Battle Royale these days. Where you're basically playing against 35 other players on the original Mario series, and the last one alive wins, which is pretty cool. This one's great for a couple reasons. It was almost my pick of the month. Very close, but the reason it's not is because it's much more focused for newer streamers than established ones. So if you are a new streamer, it's really, really good. I think about 3 viewers. This is crazy. 3 viewers will put you in the top 2 rows when I was looking into this. So brand new people can really take advantage of this. Even if you have 1 viewer, there's not that many people streaming this game, so it's pretty easy to get found. The other thing is it's a Switch game. So when I do these lists, Switch games are consistently on them for a couple reasons. The biggest one is that there's no easy way to stream from a Switch, from any Nintendo console, right? There's no built-in app the same way there is on Xbox or PS4 to stream on Twitch. You need to have a capture card. You need to have a PC. So that automatically makes it so that there's less people streaming this game, and you are kind of more unique in that way and don't have to fight for some people to stream this game. So check it out if you're into this kind of game. I do think it's short term. It probably will be gone from this list in the next month or so. So I would not like make a full brand out of this game, but you could work it in if you want to do Nintendo games, if you want to just try something different with your stream. And especially if you're a brand new streamer, I think this might have the lowest viewer threshold of any game on the list, besides maybe Wild Rift. It's kind of close. But those 2 games, but especially Mario Bros, if you can stream it and you're new, I would definitely start with this to build your first few followers on Twitch this month. Okay, moving on into the C tier. Now the theme for this tier is you're going to see a lot of games that have been around for a while that maybe are harder to grow in initially, but have huge ceilings. There's just so many people watching these games that it doesn't matter that they're hard to stand out in because viewers are moving around a lot, but also because there's so much potential, they're really good long-term bets. So let's break them down a little bit here. So first up, we have Dota 2, which is always on this list, and sadly, to my disappointment, it is always higher than League of Legends by a long shot. And that's for a couple reasons. First of all, because it's not quite as popular as League. That's a fact, not an opinion. There's just less people streaming this game, even though there's a ton of people watching it, so it's easier to stand out. But, you know, it is still very hard to stand out. Don't let me dissuade you that way. You're going to need a lot of people to kind of get seen organically by people going through this directory. When I checked, it was like 200 viewers to really be kind of findable here. So what I would do to stand out a little bit more, like if you're going to do this game, you really have to commit to only playing Dota. I think that's the same thing with CSGO and League and other big games like that. You kind of have to be a one-trick streamer to make those work. But you can kind of niche yourself down a little bit by choosing certain champions, by choosing certain strategies. Again, always good to make extra content on YouTube, Instagram, stuff like that, just to make it a little bit easier for people to find you and make you more unique than just any other Dota streamer. Like, why should people watch you specifically? Do you have some strategy or some experience that others don't? That's what you got to find in this directory. And if you want to make it work, you can just embrace it for the long haul. The ceiling is huge though, and you're not going to lose viewers and max out very easily here. Moving on to the C tier, we have Magic the Gathering, which is a much better game to stream than Dota if you're starting out or just want to get seen in general. It's a card game, which I always talk about. Card games and auto battlers are sort of the best games for interaction on Twitch, and they're really good because there's downtime. They're not nearly as interactive and consuming as FPS games or MOBAs. You can actually pay attention to chat while you're playing, which is great. So Magic is a great one because it's newer than Hearthstone, so it's not quite as established, at least the actual online game is versus the physical one. But maybe you have a backstory in Magic, you've been playing for a while, or you just want to do extra content and kind of maybe stick with mostly playing Magic. I think this is a good game to kind of stand out a little bit. This one's pretty good for new streamers. About 30 viewers will put you into the top 5 rows. So maybe about mid-range streamers. If you have that 20 to 30 base, I think you can start getting found organically here. And again, there's cool ways to kind of make this unique as a card game streamer, but one of the better games to be streaming this month is definitely Magic. Next up in C tier, we have Crash Bandicoot 4. It's About Time. That's a mouthful. This is the only other single-player game on this list besides Watch Dogs. This one, in my opinion, is much better for new streamers, though, as opposed to Watch Dogs, which is better for maybe established streamers. So this one's good for a couple reasons. First of all, it's on a lot of platforms, so a lot of people are interested in this game. Secondly, it's a nostalgic series that's coming back, so a lot of people who played the original games probably want to check out the new one, but maybe don't want to play the new one themselves. That would actually be me included in that category, and I've watched a couple streams myself. This one also has a really low viewer range, so if you have maybe in like the 5 to 15 range of viewers, you can stand out here. And it is going to fall off in the next month or so. I mean, because it's a story game, people are going to find out what the story is and probably not keep playing it the same way that they did with a Zelda game or a Metroid game. Nintendo just tends to dominate there. But yeah, this is a good game if you are a story streamer. Like if you play story games in variety and you want to mix those in, definitely try Crash and Watch Dogs this month. Or if you're a brand new streamer and you want to try to build your first few viewers, this is another good game to pick this month because it's so easy to get found here to try to work in there. So definitely check that game out if you're into story games. Next up in C tier, we have CSGO, which I was kind of surprised. It's one of the only shooters on this list, but it's another, you'll see again, the theme of C tier is long established games that are really hard to break into, but have massive ceilings and a massive long-term payoff if you can make it happen. This one is tough to get found organically. You need about 300-ish viewers to be in the top couple rows here, which for most people is not very easy. So if you want to make this one work, you're going to have to do some other sort of discoverable content on YouTube, Instagram, whatever your platform of choice is, TikTok maybe. You could definitely make some strategy guides, although it's so old in this game that it's going to be tough. If you have any kind of pro background or pro leaning, that definitely helps stand out here. Probably collaborating with some other streamers, maybe squatting up with other streamers could be an option. It's a tough one, but the reason it's on here is because A, the data just shows people are moving around and checking out other streamers more than other games. But B, because the ceiling is so high, like if you can make it work, this game is going to pay off super well long term. The viewership for this game is not going to fall off for years, the same way that, you know, Among Us and Crash and Watch Dogs Legion, they'll fall off in a couple months. CSGO viewers will be here for a while, so it's a good long-term bet. If you can make it work, you just got to be committed here. Speaking of Among Us, that is our next game here in the tier list. And it's no surprise probably to you that's on here, dominating Twitch lately this month. I would say it's kind of the game of the month in terms of just overall excitement and viewership. So there's been a lot of big events around this. I was kind of surprised it made it on here just because it is so hard to get found. There's so many people streaming this game that it's really, you're basically just not going to get found for people scrolling through a directory. But because there's so many people watching, it still made it on here because there's just a lot of people on Twitch for this game. If you want to make this game work, you're going to have to get a little bit creative, and you should also know I don't think it's going to last very long. I ran a poll on Twitter, and most people that voted thought it would last about 2 to 3 months or so. Not fully sure if that's the case, but I think that's about right. There's a couple things it has going for it over other games that fall off. First of all, it's on mobile. So again, any game that's on mobile is great because huge player base that can just easily access this on any smartphone. So there's just always going to be more people watching this game than like Fall Guys or Crash or that kind of thing. Secondly, it's very multiplayer focused and very good for collaborations. So you can kind of play this game your own style. Like maybe you're very charismatic and you have your own character. You're a good liar. You can kind of bring your own personality to this game a lot more than other games. It's also good for collaboration. So you can probably find 9-ish streamers around your viewership level and ask them to squad up and play games together. And then hopefully all your viewers will kind of move around between the channels. That's a great game for this kind of thing. So you can still do it. Again, I wouldn't bet the farm on this game, but it'll still be watched for a while, I think, even after its hype because it's on mobile. So good option if you want to try that game out. Don't let the huge streamers discourage you from trying it yourself too. Okay, next up in the C tier, we have Teamfight Tactics, aka TFT. This is the only auto battler on here. It's been on a couple times, I think. This is a newer game, and again, since it is an auto battler, it's really good for interaction because anytime you're having downtime in a turn on the carousel, whenever, you can talk to chat, you can narrate what you're doing, and it's not nearly as consuming as, you know, CSGO, League of Legends. You can actually pay attention to chat while you're doing this. Since it is a newer game, there aren't as many established streamers here, so you might be able to kind of break out that way. When I looked on this directory, about 80 viewers will put you in the top 5 rows, so a little harder than some directories, but if you are in that mid-range from 50 to 100 viewers and you've been streaming for a while, and you want to keep growing beyond that, this could be a good directory for you. Also, if you're below that viewership ratio and you want to try this game, I think doing YouTube content would be great. This is a great game for strategy stuff with builds and, you know, comps, things like that, YouTube videos, infographics, stuff like that. If you want to make that work, good option. And again, regardless, since it is an auto battler, it's always great for interaction with chat. So I would definitely check this out if you want to try this game. Second to last here in the C tier, we have League of Legends, which I'm kind of surprised it snuck on this list at all, just because there's so much saturation for this game. I think because it just came out of World Season, there's a lot of hype around it. But yeah, this did sneak on at the very end here. This is the game that I play. I'm not going to lie, it's very hard to grow up playing this game. But there are a couple things you can do to stand out. Again, it's on here because the data shows people are moving around and the viewers are dispersing more than other games where it's super top heavy. So there's some room to grow here. If I were you streaming this game, I would do things like specialize in a certain champion. So like I only play Nidalee. I only play jungle. I pretty much only play ranked. So things like that, people know to come back each time to learn that specific thing from your stream. There's a lot of specialization in this game. It's going to be tough to grow if you want to make it work. But again, another good option if you want to make additional YouTube content. That's what I do on a second channel for like Nidalee guides. Maybe do your certain character or role that you want to specialize in. That's an option. And again, it's on here also because the viewership is just so high that the long-term payoff is huge. Like if you can make it as a League streamer, the ceiling, I think, is the highest of any game on Twitch. You're not going to run out of viewers doing this game, as opposed to like Crash. You know, at some point you've kind of reached everyone watching Crash. Like you've hit 100, 200 viewers, and no one else on Twitch really wants to watch. On League, you'll just slowly pull people from other channels and other directories to watch you and keep growing to 30,000+ viewers at the top end. So huge payoff if you can make it work. You just got to really be committed with this game. All right, and last but not least, we have Legends of Runeterra, which is actually my pick of the month. I promise you, I did not make it the last on purpose just to get you to watch all the way to the end. It just came out that way for a couple reasons. The reasons why it's my pick of the month is, first of all, it's got a really good low viewership threshold. So I think if you are in, looks like the 20 to 25 viewer range, you're in the top 2 rows, which is really good for a game that has this much top end. You know, it's not quite as easy as some of the other games on here, but that's pretty reasonable for some people. Even if you have, 10-ish viewers, you're probably in the top 4 rows, so not too bad. But the top end potential for this game is big. It's brand new, about a year or so old, and there's not a lot of established streamers that I know of in this directory. So if you want to kind of break out and make yourself as a Legends of Runeterra streamer, that's an option. And as if that all weren't enough, it's a card game. So it's very interactive. A lot of the strategy has not been solved yet for some of the new patches. There's just a lot of ways for you to make content and keep people engaged for this game. So that's why it gets my pick of the month. It's a good balance game, whether you are new to streaming or you've been streaming for a while and want to kind of break out into the partner territory or all the way up into, hundreds of viewers range. This is going to be an all-around great pick, which is kind of my criteria. And so I would check this one out first. If it's not your style, then look at some of the other games on this list and see if they might be for you instead. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up the list of what's currently on here this month. Now, there were a lot of other games that didn't quite make it on this top 20 to 30 or so. If you want to see the other games that are below this and where they ranked, where your favorite game ranked that's not on here, the Fortnite, the Apex, all that info is going to be in the description. There should be a doc you can go to in my Discord, which is where that all is. So you can look up as long as your game is in the top 100 watched on Twitch on total, you'll be able to see its position on the list. So check that out if you want to see those. Also, if you want to see games, so I didn't include any games that were really not games. So just chatting, podcasts, ASMR, all that kind of stuff. If you want to see non-game categories, let me know. I can either do a new tier list for just those games. I could include them in this list if you want to see that, or I could just put those somewhere else in a Discord or Instagram, that kind of thing, just for quick access. So let me know. I kept them out because there's some gimmicks around those, like poker and that kind of thing, but it might be interesting for some of you guys if you aren't really into the gaming side, but want to try some of the more just chatting IRL stuff too. All right, guys, that about wraps up the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please check out some of the other content on this channel. If you like this video, more tier lists coming every month as long as I can help it. So you'll get updates each month on the new games you should check out, as well as the old games that are still doing well to keep you guys in the know. Please make sure you subscribe if you've not already to get more of the notifications, and check me out on Twitch if you want to see more discussion. I'll be talking through this tier list as well as some of the other picks that weren't on here and making changes over the months if you guys want to see some adaptations. So that's all happening on Twitch. And of course, more videos coming each month when I can get these out. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you in the next one. See ya.